Hey guys, Waterfowler41 here, and in today's video we're going to be doing a bit of a cosmetic upgrade underneath the hood of my truck. You know I love red accents underneath the hood here. It all complements the performance there. We got our battery cap, we got our intake here from AFE. So enter the Fathouse Performance engine dress-up kit. So this is a bunch of billet aluminum pieces that will replace or go on top of the caps underneath the hood of the truck and just give it a little bit more pop here. So we're going to be covering this cap, we're going to be covering our brake fluid cap, replacing the dipstick, replacing the windshield washer fluid. We got the whole 9 yards here. So let's take a look at what comes in the kit. So in the kit, you get your windshield washer cap, you get a new oil cap, you get your new coolant overflow overlay cap. So this just goes right on top of the existing cap. Similar to that, we have our brake fluid cap, we have our AC line caps, and then we have our dipstick handles. So we're gonna have to replace the existing one with this one. And again, it's just gonna give us a nice little tasteful pop underneath the hood here. So let's get the first three out of the way. So these three, this one, and this one, all go on without any tools. Really simple. We just take our cap like this, we find the one that it's supposed to cover, make sure it's oriented right, and push it down, and it fits right onto the existing cap. So let's go ahead and grab the brake one. Same thing. Just make sure the factory cap is clocked the right way, and then when you go ahead and put the Fathouse Performance cap on there, we're just going to push it down, and it clips right on to the factory cap, and you can see just operates just as normal. So again, already looking great, and it took us all of about 2 seconds to install that. All right, now that we got those guys taken care of, the next thing we're going to do is turn our attention to the oil cap. So let's go ahead and find the factory one. We're going to remove this guy because we are going to use that O-ring on the Fathouse Performance one. All right, so once we find all the hardware in the kit, what it includes is the cap, you have this little set screw, and then you have this neck. The neck part is going to replace the portion that goes into where the factory oil cap went in. We're going to lay this one off to the side for now. First thing we're going to want to do is take this screw and thread it into the bottom of the cap. And the reason we do that is this screw is so we can adjust the orientation of the cap once it's installed on here. So all we got to do is just snug that guy just a smidge. Just put them tight just like that. Then the next thing we're going to do, and I need 2 hands for this, is we're going to put a little bit of Loctite right here on these threads, and then this portion is going to thread right into the bottom of the cap. Then what we'll do, once we get that a little snug, we're going to go over to the truck, we're going to pop it in, and then we're going to see how much we need to turn the black portion so that the cap is oriented the right way. I probably want it like that next to the engine. And then once we get it in the orientation we want, we're going to go ahead and use our hex head, and we're going to loosen that screw inside here, which will push it up against the back of this black portion, and that'll lock everything into place. So that's how we're going to orient it. After we get it in the proper orientation, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to swap over this little O-ring onto this neck, and then we should be good to go to reinstall this on the engine. Okay, so we got our oil cap ready to go. All we got to do is swap over the O-ring from the factory cap. The easiest thing to do to get the right orientation is line it up with the factory one, and you just basically want to make sure these little channels are lined up the right way. Went ahead and did that, and then once I popped it on the engine, it required 0 adjustment. Once you get the black and the red portion in the orientation you want, go ahead, take your hex key here, put it all the way in there, and then you're going to loosen that silver screw on the middle here. And what that's going to do is it's going to take that screw and it's going to push up against this black portion, holding it into place. Obviously, between that and a little bit of Loctite around the threads on the black portion, this isn't going anywhere. So now the last thing we need to do is go ahead and use a pick tool to pull off our factory O-ring here. And then we're going to swap this guy over onto here. And then this is good to go to throw this onto our truck. So let's go ahead and get it on the truck and take a look at it. All right, so there's our new oil cap from Fathouse Performance. Looks awesome. Matches the brake cap nicely. So now while we're over here, what I'm going to do is go ahead and pull out the dipstick because that's the last piece we're going to change on this side. And then we'll turn our attention over to those AC lines, and then we'll shut this video down. All right, so here's how the dipstick handle is going to work. So the first thing we need to do is we need to knock out this little pin here on the factory one. By doing that, we'll be able to pull the metal portion off of the plastic handle. Once we do that, then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this piece, and then we're going to take the metal piece, we're going to slide it through, and then we're going to install a new pin to hold that guy into place. Once that pin's into place, then we can take this little tiny set screw and install that just to make sure everything's hunky-dory. We'll hit that with a little bit of Loctite just to make sure, again, everything's staying in place. Once we do that, then what we'll do is we'll take this longer set screw, thread that into the top here. It'll go in portion of the way, and then the handle will screw into that. And then we are good to go to swap this back onto the truck. Oh, the last thing we're gonna do is we're also gonna transplant this O-ring from here onto here. I like just using the factory ones, a little bit more durable than anything. So. All right, so the factory handle was removed. You don't need to knock the pin out all the way, just enough that you can free up the little metal guy here. But now that this is good to go, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide that guy right into the Fathouse Performance piece. You can see it goes right through. Then we're gonna find the pin in the kit. Let's put a little bit of tape on here, get this guy in the vise, and then we're gonna pop this pin into place, make sure it's flush on both sides, hit this little set screw with some Loctite, get him in that bottom portion, tighten him down, swap over the O-ring, put our top set screw in, get the handle all fully assembled. But let's get this portion into the bottom piece. All right, so most of the dipstick is good to go. You don't need to hit the pin too hard. It will go in. Once it's in, then you're gonna go ahead and grab that really tiny set screw and then put a little Loctite in there, thread that set screw in there. It's gonna give you a nice solid connection between the dipstick and the little adapter piece here. So now the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna find the longer set screw. We're gonna hit it with Loctite on the bottom here and then on the top. The reason we do it on the bottom and the top is the bottom is for where it attaches to this guy. The top is for where the handle itself threads into here. So let's hit this with some thread locker. Go ahead and get it installed, get this guy on there, and then swap over the O-ring, and then I'll show you what this guy looks like on the truck because it's looking great. All right, there you go. We are good to go. We got our Fathouse Performance dipstick all built up here. We got our O-ring swapped over, and I think we could all agree that the Fathouse one looks a heck of a lot better than the factory dingy plastic yellow one. So let's go ahead and get this guy thrown onto the truck. It's got a nice little Fathouse Performance logo in there on the top. And then what we'll do is we'll finish up this project with the AC caps. All right, so now the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and swap out our AC caps. These are super easy to do. Just gonna go ahead and remove this guy, and then there's one more down here. Again, it's just here to give us a nice little red pop. You can already see things are looking great. So once we take our little caps over here to the table, you will see that there is a skinny diameter one right here, and then a fatter diameter one as well. So you have two of those. I already have one assembled here. That's the skinny diameter, or I'm sorry, that's the fat diameter one. But let's start with the skinny one. Super simple. What we're gonna do is take the little metal insert out of the bag here, and then we're gonna find the O-ring that corresponds with this guy. We're gonna slide the O-ring onto the neck here, put a little Loctite on this guy, and then all it does, it just pops in here and threads right into the cap. The caps are the same. The only thing different is the little black insert that goes on there, and that will dictate what position they go into based on these that you just removed from the truck. Anyway, let's go ahead and get the O-ring out of the bag here, put it on here, get a little thread locker in here, there, and then I'll show you how to install these guys. All right, so in both cases, once you install that black insert inside the red caps, then you're gonna go ahead and take a flathead, just right inside there, and then tighten everything down. So everything is good to go. So let's get these guys over by the truck, and we got our O-rings on there and installed. The O-rings are also size different. So there's a small one, and then there's a fatter one. The fatter one obviously goes around the top portion of the AC cap. The skinny one goes on the bottom AC cap. So we can just take our guys here and then put it right there, and you can see it just threads right in there. And it's all aluminum, so you don't need it crazy tight. We take our fat one, put it there. There you go. So we got our caps installed there. Got our overflow coolant cap. Got our brake reservoir cap. And let's take a peek at our oil cap, as well as our dipstick back in the corner. Kit's looking great. Let's finish up with the windshield washer fluid cap. All right, so our last but certainly not least is our windshield washer cap. Now this one's super easy. All we gotta do is just open it up and then pull it off. And you basically are just releasing it off this tab. Then we're gonna grab the one that comes in the Fathouse kit. It does not have a tab. All it does is just basically clip on over the factory neck, and you're good to go. So now we are done. So we got our windshield washer cap, we got our dual AC caps, we got our coolant overflow cap. Let's hop up on the ladder here. Got our brake cap, and then we got our oil cap as well as our dipstick cap. So everything looks awesome. If you are interested in looking at the Fathouse kit, I will leave a link to it down in the description. I will say a huge shout out to the Ford Raptor Nation folks for turning me onto this kit. I think it looks great. It's really accenting a lot of the red I have going on underneath the hood, and it's really just kind of bringing the truck together. So again, if you're looking to do a little bit of a cosmetic upgrade underneath the hood of your truck, definitely check out this kit. It's probably by far one of the better made kits out here as far as accent kits for this gen truck. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Links down in the description. Any questions, leave them down in the comments. I got a lot of videos coming at you this week, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for watching. Bye. you.